first observation, which should be obvious, is that I think public diplomacy, the Center for Public Diplomacy, Annenberg, this is your crisis. It is so obviously about the atmospherics and the presentation of North Korea and the United States. And so in many ways, this is where we really do look to Annenberg for insights and for perspective on what's going on. Because the difference, this is without question the most attention I've ever seen to North Korea. Now, that doesn't mean I think it's actually a worse crisis. I'm actually not convinced it is. But there is overwhelmingly more attention. I never ever expected in my life to have this much attention on what I study. Sort of nice, right? But it is insane how American media has gone berserk about North Korea. And I'm not convinced it's because of what North Korea is doing, right? There's so much going on here. So even during the other crises, yes, sometimes policymakers pay attention. Once a year, CNN would call me up. And now it is literally every single day. So this is your time to shine, because I think we are missing a lot of what's going on. Because I don't do communications and public diplomacy. But over essentially the last 10 months, I've become convinced more and more that we are missing this part. I was talking to a reporter yesterday, and they were saying, well, Trump said it's the calm before the storm, right? And so point number 2 is this. I think in some ways we are not doing ourselves a favor. First of all, I think that the mainstream American media, and I use that not pejoratively, right? Just, American media, is so concerned about Trump that we react to him more than react to what's going on the ground. And I haven't formulated, I may start saying this or writing it, but I was talking to this guy literally yesterday of a couple I talked to on the phone, and but he said he's going to annihilate blah, blah, this calm before the storm. And I said, you guys you are lurching back and forth depending on whatever impetuous tweet he says. And you're trying to parse the meaning of what he says when I'm not at all convinced that he has anything other than he's trolling you and he'll say whatever he wants, and you guys jump and you scream over here and you run over there, right? But he's president. I say, well, it's your job as media and whatever to interpret what he says and not let him set an agenda where fundamentally the reason that I think it's not as bad a crisis as we act like it is that we are still fundamentally in the realm of rhetoric. Nothing different has happened. We have not shot at them, they have not shot it up. It is tests and name calling. And that's where we need to think, we need to have better tools in this, because we take Trump almost literally, like we have no tools to interpret it. And then we run over, North Korea we get, right? I mean, I know they talk that way, but our own president is speaking flamboyantly. Yet fundamentally, when I parse through what he's doing, it remains fundamentally to me a deterrent message that he's saying. He has still not said, I will preemptively strike North Korea no matter what. Essentially, most of his comments, either they're totally, what does it mean, the calm before the storm? It doesn't mean anything. Why are we wasting our time? But when he does say something about we will wipe them off the face of the earth, he says, if they attack us first, we will wipe them off. If North Korea doesn't blah, 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 right? So the reporter said to me, well, he said that we can't go on. We can't live with a nuclear North Korea. That means World War III is going to start tomorrow. I said, every single American president has said the same thing. That's what strategic patience was. Now, it was said differently. That's why we need people to study public diplomacy. Yes, it was said a little more like we expect presidents to speak, but it's fundamentally the same thing. We're not going to live with a nuclear North Korea. I said to people in the Bush administration and the Obama administration, but we are, right? We can say we refuse to live with nuclear North Korea, but we are. We already have been. So yes, maybe what he's saying is consequential, but I really wish we had a little bit more ability to take a step back and not let the rhetoric of the situation have us zooming back and forth. Maybe it is a worse crisis than in 1997, or I just put up on Twitter, if you want to see, stuff from 1976 saying this is an incredible tinderbox, the axe murders, war is at hand. You could literally just change the date 40 years later and it would be today. Is it different? Maybe, but we really thought war was likely then, and in 83 and in 94. So it might be, but we are not doing ourselves a favor. We are not doing our job as people who know about North Korea to let other people determine the agenda. So that's number two. And I think it's not about Korea. It's about America and the media and Trump and his unbelievable ability to formulate things. I mean, he's brilliant. I mean, he's brilliant at what he's doing. And we're letting him set the terms. And he might have to, and he might not have to. Right? So I just put that there as an observation. Right? Number three is, as I think is very obvious, and as both the Consul General and as the ambassador said, what I find striking about this is how South Korea has been left without a voice. More again, and again, the amount of noise in the United States means it's very hard to get a word in edgewise. I get it. But it is really remarkable how President Moon, Korea went through its own problems with a president who was under impeachment and basically interim, in limbo for a year, essentially. Right? You finally get a president, and all hell breaks loose. And I can't even, yes, President Moon, right? He comes to Washington, and New York, and I barely know what he said. Now, it might not matter if President Moon and South Korea as a government and as a people of 50 million people basically like the strategy and the way things are going. Then it's fine. If they're like, sure, I'm just, whatever America. I don't think that's the case. I think South Korea has a different perspective on this. Doesn't mean it probably has a perspective that might have a little more nuance to it, might have a little more perspective on what the implications of a war would be for America and for America's closest allies in ways that is not getting out. And so this has become U.S. North Korea in a way that I don't think serves South Korea's interests. And that's from the president on down of how do you, in a environment like we are today, a public diplomacy environment that we're in today, get an alternative perspective, and it's incredibly important to hear. An incredibly important perspective. So I don't have an answer to that per se, but I do think that this is the form that we should talk about it in.